Copacetic on the track. What's going on, gang? It's your boy Man Down Zoe, co-host of Man Down Sports Full Panel Friday. But this is Bird's Eye View Podcast, where I talk about my favorite teams from a fan's perspective. If you're new here, make sure you hit that like, comment, subscribe, and share. If you're not new here, still hit that like, still comment, still share. Do all of that stuff to get me in the algorithm so the fellow Falcons nation can step in here and have some conversations. Rhyming on accident. Boy, I got bars. I'm telling you. Ask about me. Anyway, let's get right into it, man. Kirko, it was nice while it lasted. You was swag surfing. You know what I'm saying? You was walking in the trap, taking over the trap, all the chains on. You done grew the beard out, all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? It looked great. But go on, grab that clipboard and headset, my boy. Yeah, guys, it's time. It's time. It's actually past time. We should have did it 2 or 3 games ago, but I'm glad it got finally announced that Kirk Cousins will be benched. He was 1-4 in his last 5 games with the Falcons after we had pretty much a stranglehold on the division. Now we're behind the Bucs, I believe, by half a game or maybe a full game. Not really sure. Either way it goes, we do have the tiebreaker with them. We beat them both times this season, actually. So for us to not be ahead of the division and the division leader to have lost us both times means that we have been playing horrendous lately, and it's been started and led by number 18 at quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Like I said, 1-4 in his last 5 games. In that same stretch, 8 interceptions to 1 touchdown. You can't win games like that. In 5 games, you got 8 picks and 1 touchdown. And that touchdown was the other night against the Raiders, who we looked horrible against. I thought we were righting the ship against them. I was thinking, okay, it's the Raiders. That secondary be getting cooked all year. It's a depleted team. They don't have a quarterback. They do have a Brock Bowers, though. And he was relatively quiet because you got to have a quarterback to get him the ball. That's another story. Ironically, Desmond Ridder was their quarterback, so we know how that went. But no Max Crosby. A lot of guys just not on the team, and they are already a bad team, 2-win team. But it came down to a Hail Mary at the end that luckily Jesse Bates picked off. It would have been perfectly fitting had we lost that game and then get Kirk Cousins get benched, because there probably wouldn't be many apologists for that. I don't think there's many now. But at the same time, you got some diehard Kirk fans in the Falcons fan base, and I think that they think this may be premature. I am not one of them at all. I'm not one of them at all. I think that this benching was earned. He earned this benching. When you play this horrible for this stretch of games with playoff implications on the line, then you leave the GM, the coach, no choice. And I guarantee you, as involved as Arthur Blank is, he definitely has some say-so in this too. So let's talk about what it is that is plaguing Kirk Cousins to make him play so horrible. I think early in the season, of course, he was coming off the Achilles injury, and I think that he kind of got into a rhythm. He started feeling himself, and the players around him were making plays. Simple as that. The players around him were making plays, and he was embracing the culture, dancing, swag surfing, loving the Atlanta vibe. It looked like Atlanta was a contender. I knew we weren't a contender just off the defensive lack of pass rush anyway, but I said if Kirk can just not play horrible, then the Falcons have a chance to win the division. Unfortunately, for about 4 games, he did not play horrible. In a couple of games, he played actually really, really well. 500 passing yards, I think, in the overtime game against the Bucs. And then Kirk Cousins does what Kirk Cousins does. Eventually, teams just grow weary of the good guy who's playing not so good football, and that's exactly what happened. Last Monday, he looked like a shell of a quarterback. His bottom half was barely moving. He was under center most times. We didn't see a whole bunch of play action. He wasn't really mobile, moving around. I don't know if it's an injury. There is a possibility that, pain is still lingering. After all, he just tore his Achilles last year this time and tried to come back. But regardless of what, when you play that bad, you deserve exactly what he got, and that is benched. He led the Falcons to a 7-7 record. I'm so happy we still have a chance at the division. The Bucs are playing lights out, though. Luckily, we don't have to play them again, and our last 3 games are against, I believe, the next game is definitely against the Giants, and I think they got flexed to a 7 o'clock game. I mean, not the Giants. I think it's the Commanders, then the Giants. So maybe the other way around. Either way, our next 3 opponents are the Commanders, the Giants, and the Panthers. All winnable games with a new quarterback. Michael Penix, and I think it is the Commanders because they flex that game because it's Jaden Daniels versus Michael Penix Jr., and that'll be must-see TV. 2 black quarterbacks. Shout out to them boys, them rookies. They're getting their chance to shine on prime time. But yeah, man, the bottom half, if anybody plays sports, then you know as a quarterback, your bottom half and your top half need to be connected for you to be consistently accurate. It just has to happen. It has to happen. If it doesn't happen, then you see what you saw on Monday night. Kirk Cousins missing wide open receivers on key third downs over and over and over and over again. In the fourth quarter, the writing was on the wall. They wasn't even putting the ball in his hands to make any plays unless it was third down and they had no choice, and he wasn't able to make the play. It was a Bijan Robinson featuring Tyler Algier show, with the exception of the first touchdown catch in 5 games from Drake London, from Kirk Cousins to Drake London. I'm sorry. So yeah, man, like this was well overdue. I would be interested to see what happens next. Of course, June 1st cuts. We'll save a couple of dollars, but the $25 million a year is a front-loaded contract these first 2 years. And I told people on the Man Down podcast, Full Panel Friday, that this is essentially a 2-year contract. The first year, if it works out, we'll let him play the second year. The first year, it doesn't work out, we drafted our replacement, and he can come in and start immediately. Then we'll look to either trade Kirk Cousins, because it's a bunch of quarterback-needy teams out there, Raiders being one of them. We'll trade Kirk Cousins in the offseason once he has fully healed. Not saying that he hasn't, but, a year and a half removed is a lot different than a year removed with an Achilles injury. So it remains to be seen what happens with Kirk Cousins. I think that with everything that has happened in the offseason, from the signing of Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $100 million guaranteed contract with the front-loaded 2 years, to drafting Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins camp potentially being upset, to losing the 4th-round draft pick because Kirk Cousins admitted to tampering, to now you getting benched after going 1 for 4 in your last 5 games with 8 picks and 1 touchdown. It's been highs and lows. I love the swag surfing. I love all of the walking in your trap and taking over your trap. I love all of that. But at the end of the day, you got to win games. You haven't been doing that. So now it's time to give the young guy, who's really not that young, a chance. Speaking of which, let's talk about it. MP9, Michael Penix Jr. is Kirk Cousins' replacement as QB1 for the Atlanta Falcons, number 8th overall pick in the 2024 draft. Went to Indiana, I believe, his first year, tore both his ACLs, ironically, still went on to Washington, and then just turned into one of the most productive passers of the football that college has ever seen. Maxwell Award winner in 2023, AP comeback player of the year in 22, first team All-American in 23, second team All Pac-12 in 22 and 23, second team All Big Ten in 2020. The man just threw the ball all over the field to any receiver he wanted to at Washington, made it to the championship game where they lost to Michigan, but it doesn't take away from his excellent season. Number one, because you got Washington in the national championship game. Number two is because you were able to overcome those injuries, 2 ACL tears, and come back and still play your best football after that. And I think that it was definitely something that needed to happen because of the fact that, he was much more of a dual threat in his younger days. I think that time away from the game with those injuries allowed him to develop into an elite pocket passer. Not saying he was bad in the first place, but I think he developed into an elite processor of the game. He's a lefty, which, will have its own own challenges with Caleb McGarry protecting his blind side. But at the end of the day, I am absolutely stoked to see this guy, and he fits the timeline. He's young, but he's not super duper young. He's 24 years old, 24-year-old rookie. He has young pieces around him. Drake London is still young. Ironically, Kyle Pitts is still young. Of course, you know about Bijan and Tyler Algier. They're still young. Darnell Mooney is now getting a shot as a 1A receiver, I guess you could say. He can play the X, the Y, and the slot, though, but he is really effective outside of the numbers. And you know who's good throwing the ball outside of the numbers? Michael Penix Jr. Ask Roma Duzé. Ask Jalen Pope. Ask those guys in Washington who was catching those passes, deep passes consistently, and he throws the ball with so much accuracy. And the biggest thing that I see about Mike Penix that I like is he throws a friendly ball, but it's accurate to the point to where either his receiver is going to catch it or nobody's going to catch it at all. I am looking forward to this game. I think our next game is against the Giants. Very winnable game. Of course, they dealing with their own things as well, but I think this will be a perfect game for him to come out and give him some shots. It remains to be seen what the play callers are going to do when it comes to Mike Penix. Are they going to allow him to have the full playbook? Probably not. They're going to depend a lot on the run game and make him be comfortable first before they throw him into that fire. But at the end of the day, I'm excited to see it. It's well-deserved. Kirk, you lost the job. Be a good teammate. Help the young guy. Mike Penix, here is your shot. Here's your shot. The Falcons, though, they look like geniuses, honestly. Front load a 4-year contract of a quarterback coming off an Achilles injury. He plays well for a little bit, doesn't play well. You draft the quarterback. He's upset about it, but, I mean, how upset can he be? The team is looking out for the team. They do that, and now Michael Penix is getting a chance to show what he can do. I said this on the Man Down podcast when it first happened, that I'm not mad at the decision. You signed Kirk Cousins, who you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know whether you were going to get Kirk Cousins in Washington, Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, Kirk Cousins in Atlanta early, or this Kirk Cousins who was throwing for 500 yards against the Bucs. You didn't know what you were going to get, but you were risking putting the money just so he could come in the event that he can be a consistent guy. But he wasn't. He just wasn't consistent. The first game of the season, he looked like a shell of himself. Of course, he picked it up later on down the line, but at the end of the day, you know, it's Michael Penix's team now. He fits the timeline. I'm excited to see what these last 3 games look like. I'm excited to see where we fall in this playoff hunt. We still have a chance to win the division. I'm excited to see what Drake London and Darnell Mooney, who were on a tear when Kurt was on a tear, of course, because he was throwing the ball consistently. They were the leading receiver duo. I think after week 7, if I'm not mistaken, they were the 2 wide receivers who had the most yards in the entire league. So you get a quarterback that can throw the ball deep, especially outside of the numbers. That's going to open up things for those guys. I'm interested to see it, man. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'll be more to talk about it. Matter of fact, I will be going live the next Falcons game, either during the entire game or post game. So at the end of the day, make sure you are locked in with me. If you're an Atlanta sports fan, or if you're just a sports fan and you like talking sports, or if you're a Man Down sports fan and you just want to support the full panel, get your boys subscribe, turn them notification bells on. I'll be back with more content soon. Peace.